one of the reasons why you choose a particular microphone for a job, whether it be to mic a guitar amplifier or to mic a presenter, is its pickup pattern or polar pattern. Pickup pattern and polar pattern mean essentially the same thing, and it's used to describe where a microphone is most sensitive to sound and where it is the least sensitive to sound. An omnidirectional pattern picks up sound from all around the microphone. A cardioid pattern accepts sounds from a wide angle in front of the microphone and rejects sounds from rear angles. Supercardioid patterns accept sound from a more narrow angle in front of the microphone, but has a small lobe of acceptance in the rear of the microphone. A hypercardioid pattern is similar to a supercardioid pattern, but accepts sounds from a narrower angle in front and has a larger lobe of acceptance in the rear of the microphone. Finally, the shotgun or Lobar or long gun pattern has a very narrow pattern in front, but also has small lobes of acceptance to the rear and sides. Even though the shotgun pattern shows acceptance lobes on the sides, it's still far better than any other microphone at reducing sounds from the sides of the microphone. Directionality in a microphone can be a good way to focus in on your sound source, but directionality also causes something called proximity effect. The proximity effect in audio is an increase in bass or low frequency response when a sound source is close to a directional microphone. Here's a quick demonstration about proximity effect. I will start this test with this large diaphragm condenser microphone with a cardioid pickup pattern, and then do the same test with an omnidirectional microphone. I will start a few feet back, read a line, step closer, and read it again. Listen to how the bass will shoot up as I get right up on top of the microphone, and then compare that with the omnidirectional microphone. You may be wondering what this black circular thing is here. This is called a pop screen or a pop filter, and that's to protect the microphone and your recording from plosive consonants like P's and B's, things that have air that shoots out of your mouth when you say them. This large screen helps dissipate that and really helps with a smooth sounding recording. I love peanut butter and jelly. 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 Now we'll try the same test with an omnidirectional microphone. I love peanut butter and jelly. 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 This is good to know because it can help with some sounds and make other sounds a nightmare to control. For instance, proximity effect can be a good way to beef up a voice, but if the speaker is varying the distance from the microphone, the bass response will be all over the place. When the microphone is more than 8 to 12 inches away, proximity effect is greatly reduced, almost to the point of being negligible. I mention it because you may encounter proximity effect using certain type of microphones, such as a handheld microphone or a lavalier. Sometimes the terms on-axis and off-axis are used to describe how a microphone performs. You might think of this as if a microphone were a very narrow-beamed flashlight. If you shot the flashlight and hit your sound source directly, in our case, this would be hitting someone in the mouth, this would be considered on-axis. Any other sounds originating from other positions are considered off-axis. They might be slightly off-axis by a few degrees or 180 degrees off-axis. You see, these polar patterns that we just went over are kind of an average pickup response. It's the pattern for the bulk of the frequencies. If you look at the polar patterns of a specific microphone, you'll see that the uppermost frequencies usually tighten up their pattern significantly. This is why positioning the microphone directly at your sound source is critical to capturing all of the detail the microphone is capable of. All right, really quick, I wanted to show you a little example of what we were just talking about. We're going to take a look at this PDF spec sheet for a microphone we're going to check out later in this course called the Sennheiser ME67. This is a kind of mid-range, medium length shotgun microphone. I actually refer to it in this course mistakenly as the ME66. But we're going to take a look at this one right now. What I wanted to point out to you is this polar pattern here. You can see what we have here is a polar pattern similar to what we've been talking about. But you can see there are many different lines for this one microphone, and that's what I was just kind of explaining. And you see down here we have a kind of frequency representation of those. On this side we have from 125 hertz all the way up to 1000 hertz or 1 kilohertz. On this side we have 2000 hertz all the way up to 16,000 hertz. So what you can see is the lower frequencies tend to have a wider pickup area. This is somewhat due to the fact that lower frequencies are a lot more non-directional than higher frequencies. Plus they have a lot more energy. Probably below 125 hertz, it's pretty much going to come from most everywhere. Check this out. As we get up here into the speech range, now a lot of the speech fidelity happens in this kind of area, particularly around 3 kilohertz. So if we can follow a 2 kilohertz line, we're actually looking at something a little bit tighter than maybe a supercardioid. But when we get up to 16 kilohertz or 16,000 hertz, we get that pretty typical Lobar or long gun pattern where it is very, very narrow. I mean, we're talking about maybe plus or minus 10 degrees on either side here. So, maybe this is a 20 to maybe 30-degree spread out here. That's pretty directional for those frequencies. It's going to be the frequencies that are going to make your speaker sound nice and crystal clear. If you get these off axis, it's going to sound muffled. I mean, let's see. If we look down, we get the dot dash right here. So this is the 4 kilohertz line. So if you're off, by like that much, we're talking a huge chunk of the frequencies are going to be missing. Basically, this upper kind of quarter of the audible frequencies are going to be so low that it's not going to be really super great. It'll be problematic. So you really want to make sure that you get these types of microphones, these shotgun or highly directional microphones, right on your subject, right pointed at the mouth. Now, this is another little interesting thing. We were just talking about on and off axis. This little graph here shows you these two lines, gives you the frequency response of this microphone. 0 degrees, which is a solid line, is 0 degrees on axis. So that's pretty much the sound coming from this way. 90 degrees is going to be sounds entering from the sides of the microphone. Now what's interesting here is you can see that you definitely get maybe 1500 kilohertz down. It's pretty even as far as the frequency. We get a little bit of drop as we hit 100 by a few decibels or more, that might be 5 decibels or so. But the area where the speech lives is way, way lower. I mean, we're talking 10, 15, maybe 20 decibels lower in some of these cases, maybe even more. On axis and off axis are super important to make sure you are picking up all that your microphone is capable of picking up and getting really great sound.